Right then, hopefully you've got some notes about both of these texts to compare them. Now, in terms of what I made of them, instantly I thought, okay, what is the purpose of these texts? Because once you've got that, you can start to talk about the language and why it is a particular way. So, the purpose of Cider with Rosie is to give an actual, truthful, autobiographical account of this man's life. It's written to entertain, but then you can say that about anything. It entertains in a certain way. It's written so that the reader can understand exactly how this person felt at that time. He was actually 5 when he wrote this, and so I believe that we use descriptive language to describe all of these plants as wild, frenzied things, to explain how panicked and frightened he actually felt when he was there. Now, the descriptions of the birds and the insects are very, very vivid. They're very, very colourful. But one thing I think is particularly significant, and if you go back and watch the last video, you'll hear it as I read it, is the idea that he says, for the first time in my life, for the first time in my life. Now, a couple of key words for you. It's written in a very, very impassioned, very, very intense way. He's trying to use descriptive language to actually describe the feelings that he's having. So that's that one. Now, this one, the purpose is completely different. The purpose is to introduce you very briefly to a destination. So the descriptive language here is to describe in a very factual way the things that you're going to see, common features of things. It's written in a fluent style, but it's not as intense as Cider with Rosie because it's a non-fiction text. It's a travel guide, effectively. And so people are going to read this not to be entertained but to be informed. It's an informative text. And because of that, it's very, very different. Okay, one final thing before I tail this one off. The idea of using individual words and being able to refer to individual types of words is very, very important. And so let's have a little comparison. In Cider with Rosie, we've got these descriptions of these savage plants, of the sun smacking into his face like a bully. Now, you've got lots of very frightening sounding verbs, such as, smacking into. The idea that you've got these adjectives as well. Frenzied insects whipping around, these insects that are jumping madly. I've got lots of very interesting description there. This one, the description is to tell people what to expect, as I said before. So the stone is described as silvery grey, holly yellow. Both of these texts do have one very common thing. One thing very much in common, and it's the idea of place. These two texts want to firmly set the reader into a place, to describe a setting. The only difference is, in this sense, they want to describe a setting in case you want to visit. And this one is describing a setting that couldn't be understood unless you are that age, really. So you're creating a mood and an atmosphere there. Okay, so that's question 4. One final thing to think about before you leave. It is a 16-mark question, so leave enough time to do that question justice. And as ever, with all of the questions, give the balance between the texts.